I awoke back at New Halifax in a freshly printed organic body, still laying in the printing tank, naked and sticky. It was only my second time moving to a new body, so I hadn't got used to the feeling yet. I floundered somewhat, but 2 attendants were on hand to help, preventing me from falling and guiding me to a seated shower, the warm water washing away the thin layer of oil on my skin and clearing the cobwebs from my mind. By the time the shower was done, I was clear of head once more. My update was from last night's backup, not up to the minute, so I don't know why I needed a fresh body, though my recent experiences gave me a few possibilities. Quickly donning some clothing, I left the revival room and headed for the UNS Counsellor's office, my security clearance allowing me quick access. Counsellor Marta was a Venusian-born human with the look of a woman in her 40s, despite being closer to 4 centuries. She had been voted into office after the scandal with the former councillor Sebastian, promising tougher scrutiny for government officials, something she had delivered, causing indictment or forced retirement of 17 government officials in her first year. It was late afternoon when I walked into her office, causing the councillor to stand immediately, obviously aware that our diplomatic voyage had hit a rough patch. "Mr. Dart, glad to see you are up and about again." She smiled as she delivered the pleasantry, but her face dropped a moment later. "What has happened?" Her look of concern was clear. Any deal with the Kraken would be a great boon to the UNS and New Halifax, but having one of the diplomatic team die was never a good sign.
"Madam Counsellor, my memory data is from my last nightly update. The interference on Abyssia is too great for live backups."
I didn't know much more than she did. I relayed the details of our arrival at Abyssia, as well as the details of our first meeting with the matriarch. None of what I had said soothed her expression, the look of concern clearly visible throughout my recount of the events. Eventually I was done. The counsellor settled back in her seat, still wearing an expression of worry. "A few hours after your signal dropped, we also lost the signal from Miss Balut. A new body is being produced, but it will take a few more hours." The news was worrying. If some kind of fight had broken out, Ambassador Arissa would be best equipped to fight. I have no fighting skill, though I expect I would have fared about as well as Lola, but hours apart didn't make sense. Minutes in a fight at most.
"If you'll excuse me, Madam Counsellor, I would like to be there for Miss Balut when she wakes."
Silently nodding, she dismissed me. I had a 2-hour wait once I arrived at the revival room, so I sat and reviewed the events of our arrival and encounters on Abyssia. It was clear that the ambassador was communicating with the Kraken through data link. He received instructions from the guide, but I only ever heard the matriarch speak, causing significant pain to myself and Lola, though the ambassador barely wavered. Once the timer was up, I stood and paced, waiting for Lola to emerge. She took another hour to shower and dress, eventually exiting the revival room and bounding over to me, leaping onto me in a warm and fuzzy embrace. Despite the warmth of the hug, I could tell she was extremely tense and even a little scared, so I stood there taking the weight, waiting for her to let go. Once she did, she began to walk at quite a pace. "I have to inform the counsellor," she exclaimed, leaving me behind, so I jogged up to meet her and followed to the counsellor's office. It took half as long as it had taken me the first time, her legs propelling her as fast as she was permitted by the corridors. Lola didn't speak again until we were standing at the counsellor's desk once more. Then she let loose, skipping over the arrival and going straight to the events of the following morning. It was clear she'd been in the shuttle when she died, so her memories were up to the minute. She explained that the ambassador and I had returned to the matriarch's chamber while she was still recovering from the first visit. After the meeting, I had called her, letting her know that we were on our way back, after being ejected by the monarch, though she didn't know why. She had wanted me to stay on the line, despite the connection being too distorted for Hollow. But during the conversation, I had become worried about the ambassador. He was acting strangely and ignoring my data connection requests. Then the line went dead, as had I, apparently, being the same time as my data signal had cut out. Lola waited in the shuttle for several hours, until the ambassador returned. She described him as looking terrified, on the verge of panic, which he did, ripping through the outer shuttle door and exposing Lola to the boiling soup of Abyssia. She had wisely cut connection to her body immediately, letting the shuttle transmitter back to New Halifax. By the time Lola had stopped talking, we were all sitting. The counsellor was even pouring drinks for the three of us.
This is all very grim news. It seems that our ambassador may be in great trouble. Just before you arrived, I was informed that the shuttle had been launched on a collision course, so the safety systems redirected it back to New Halifax. You should be arriving shortly.
I was anxious to discover the fate of the ambassador, as was Lola, though I suspect she had other reasons. The counsellor invited us to wait for the report, so we did. It seemed like hours more waiting, but the clock in my HUD claimed it was just 20 minutes before the report on the shuttle arrived. There was no indication that the ambassador was on the shuttle, but he had blinded the shuttle and set the collision course. After that, there was little we could do but wait. The counsellor dismissed us for some recovery, so I headed home. It had only been 2 days, but it felt like a week. I spent the rest of the day tending to my plants before settling down to some disturbing and indecipherable dreams, preventing me from sleeping well and causing my home AI to query me 3 times if I needed assistance. I certainly do, but my home AI could not provide the help I needed. I eventually gave up on sleep, choosing to sit on my balcony garden, Reza playing loudly in the background, his soothing voice and expert cello skills letting me ignore the uncomfortable dreams. It was late that evening when I was called in, so I grabbed a taxi and rushed over. The counsellor explained to us that Ambassador Arissa's mind was transmitted along with some visual data to the UNS command on Earth. The visual data shows the ambassador ranting and screaming before pushing me over the chasm, as well as several videos of his attacks on the Kraken and their city. He had been diagnosed with a psychotic break and will be receiving treatment. Lola informed me she intended to travel to Earth, visit the ambassador and reassure him of our safety. I'm not so sure it will help. The counsellor granted me a sabbatical. I don't think I'll return to work for a while. I've never been killed before. I'm not even sure how to process that.